Okay, so thanks everybody for joining for another one of these brief Teams talks that we have on Wednesday. Today I was going to talk about some drug databases that we have access to for pharmacology. I'm going to talk about some things that could probably be used in the first and second year, and also drug databases that could really more be clinical application for third and fourth year, or maybe even in PCM. I'm not really sure if they're allowed to do that or not. But as I usually say out, I want to show you where you can find all of these resources. And again, this is being recorded, so it's going to be up on the lib for anybody that wants to watch it later. But if you go to the main LUCOM library page, liberty.edu lucom/library, you'll see a couple down here underneath databases, a couple of the things we're going to show today, AccessPharmacy being one. We're going to look at Dynamed. Also up to date, but there's some that aren't necessarily listed under here. These are just some of the most popular databases. But if you go to what we used to call research guides, Diane, we're talking about it, and we renamed the page that we build to course guides and textbooks, just so it's more clear about a lot of what students can find there to begin with. So it's still here in our databases, course guides and textbooks. And if you click that, it'll take you to the LibGuide, which you've probably before if you've used this to find your textbooks or anything like that. And mostly what I want to show where to find these is under this tab that says A to Z databases. If you click on that tab, this puts an alphabetical list of all of our resources, and you can find everything we're going to talk about today on this list. So on the database list, these are alphabetical. So one of the first ones I wanted to show is this Lexicomp database, which is a very familiar drug database that we have access to. Clicking on that will open up the page, and this is a Wolters Kluwer product. So if this looks familiar, it's probably because it's laid out very much the same way as UpToDate, which I'm going to talk about how it's integrated into UpToDate. But we do have access to the database. So going to the main Lexicomp database, you'll see up some tool on the toolbar. You have IV compatibility for drugs, which you can look up by trade or brand name or IV solution. We have a tab for interactions, which allows you to put in there we go. Allows you to put in medication, and you can find drugs that interact with that. And they categorize these with colors, so no interaction, monitor, or avoid combination. And it's got everything here for drug interactions. This is cool, a drug ID, where you can actually look up medication and see what kind of imprint, what color the tablet is, whether it's a capsule or a tablet, what letters or numbers might be on them. So that's kind of cool. Again, this is all more of kind of a clinical application. There's patient education information. So if you want to hand a pamphlet on what side effects of a statin drug might be for a patient, you can put that information. You can search for that. There's medical calculators, some more clinical tools, but this is very much a clinical application. I know we have some pharmacologists that use in first and second year, but I do want to mention that this database, again, because it's owned by Wolters Kluwer, which is the same company that makes UpToDate. So this looks very familiar, right? So if you go to that A to Z database list, up is down here at the bottom. And when you go to the website, you'll notice that if you've used UpToDate, this is familiar, point of care clinical. You can create a login, so you can sign into this on your phone and have access to it there. But you'll see up here at the top, drug interactions. It actually, the Lexicomp drug interactions are built into the Lexicomp information is built into the UpToDate database. So it looks a little bit different when you access it through UpToDate, but I just want you to know it's available there. Just as a side note, I know I've helped Dr. Phipps with this before. There is a Lexicomp app separate from UpToDate available for your phone. We just have a limited number of licenses for that. But if you are interested in that, please let me know, and I will try to help you get set up with not the UpToDate, but the actual Lexicomp app for your phone if you want to use the mobile app. But we have access to both of these databases on the web. So that's some of the things. There's also dosing, administration, and adverse reaction information in Lexicomp. The main competitor for up-to-date, you've probably heard us talk about or try to promote this Dynamed resource. Dynamed is a resource made by the main competitor of up-to-date. It's a really good resource if you haven't used it. We need to check it out. We try to show people compare this to up-to-date to see which one you like more, because you might like Dynamed more. And also, it's good to be familiar with one resource, because up-to-date is notoriously expensive, and sometimes a resource like that has to be dropped. So it'd be good to be familiar as well. But when you go to the Dynamed resource, and again, there's a mobile app for this for your phone. If you need help with that, let me know. You'll see up here very similar toolbars. It's got a drugs A to Z and a drug interactions tool menu on the toolbar here underneath Dynamed. And I want to point out that this is pulling from, instead of from Lexicomp, there's another famous drug database, really well known, IBM Micromedex, and it's very similar. It's just an alphabetical list. Trying to think of, I'm not sure what. It's kind of organized a little bit differently than Lexicomp, so we can find class, dosing, administration. There's a contextual menu over here for pharmacokinetics, again, patient education or toxicology. What's kind of cool about this one, which it might be in Lexicomp, but I haven't used Lexicomp a whole lot, but the mechanism of action. So for more of that, if you're trying to learn in your first and second year, it's kind of a cool resource to have. And again, drug interaction here. We can look up. Pretty simple, it's self-explanatory. You put in one drug and a second drug and see whether or not those are have negative interactions. And again, you can search these by brand name or trade name. I do note that there is a IBM, just like Lexicomp has its own page. IBM Micromedex has its own page. That link on the LibGuide, and you'll see this looks a little bit more like Lexicomp, with the ID compatibility, drug interactions, the ID if we're looking for the imprint or the color, or whether it's caplet or a capsule or a tablet, drug comparisons. It's kind of cool. There's a pediatrics, toxicology, and drug product lookup. This is more of a clinical, I think, application, but I suppose it could be used in first and second year. But again, the link to this IBM, both Dynamed is right here, and IBM Micromedex is also on here too. The second to last thing I want to show you, and this is probably more applicable for first and second year. If you're familiar with Access Medicine, because a lot of your required books, if you're a student, are in Access Medicine, we also now have access to a couple more McGraw-Hill resources, which is who makes Access Medicine. And so they make Access Biomedical Science, but they also make AccessPharmacy. And it looks very similar if you've used medicine to access some of your, I'm trying not to say access too much. If you've used Access Medicine to get to some of your required tech, or a lot of them are in that collection, AccessPharmacy probably looks familiar because it's made by McGraw-Hill. And just like Access Med, there's a library of texts. Some of these are going to be required textbooks, probably look familiar. I know you guys use basic and clinical pharmacology publication. There are some others in here. But again, this is probably more towards first and second year. And you can tell all the different topics: health policy, drug information, biostatistics, medicinal chemistry is going to be in here. Something that's kind of cool about this resource that might be clinical, but I think is a pretty cool resource is under this quick reference. There's a link to herbs and supplements. So a lot of times those don't get addressed in some drug databases. So it's kind of cool that this is available here if you want to see whether or not a supplement is maybe contraindicated for a medication that a patient is taking. But in addition to the library of textbooks that are available, there is also drug database in here, alphabetical. I can search. Again, I can look generic, name drug classes. There's also patient handouts, and a lot of these are contextual. So like if I'm not sure, we've got, so when I click on the drug, it'll find trade. I can then find trade names, drug classes, and patient handouts for the drug. And it's got the name, pharmacologic category, index term. So again, AccessPharmacy probably more used for first and second year, but there could be clinical application for some of the resources that are. The last thing I want you to be aware of is actually a free resource, and if you go to the main lib page or the class course guide and textbook or research guide, whatever you want to call it, we actually built add a widget here for Merck, which I grew up. My mom was an RN, so we always had a Merck manual on the shelf. But they've built this site that's a widget. You can actually professional and consumer information, and you can actually just toggle these radio buttons and do professional and say I can look up statin. And I'm going to find drug information in Merck manual. This is a freely available resource. Even after you graduate, or if you're not going to Lexicomp anymore, you can still access this. You don't have to access it through the Lexicomp library page, but it's a free resource. And we can find information about the medical topic. We can find information about statins for atherosclerotic vascular disease. Did I say that? Is that right? But you'll see also that there's a menu bar up here at the top that has drug info. And again, not to be redundant, but we can find drugs by name, generic name brand. We can find drug interactions, and again, that pill identifier, which I think is kind of a cool thing. So if I click on drug name, generic and brand name, it will take me to what looks probably pretty similar to what we saw in Lexicomp, saw in IBM Micromedex, and also in Dynamed, and also in UpToDate. Just whichever these, they're going to have similar information. It just kind of depends which one you prefer. So this is acetaminophen. I can pull up these contextual dialog boxes that have brand names, administration, whether it's oral or injectable or IV, clinical guidelines, dosing information for pediatric or altered kidney function patients. There's really just a ton of information here. Each one of these drugs listed in the database. But it's cool that there's a free Merck manual resource. It's always good to have multiples depending on what you have access to, wherever you end up after you're practicing or anything like that. But these are the main resources I wanted to show to know that we have a ton of them available. If you need more information or would like more guidance in using them, please let me know. And of course, this is recorded, so I'm going to put it up on the research guide back under the brief how-to sessions where all the other recordings are if you want to view this later. Or just call us or email me or stop by the library if you need more information. So I know that was a lot kind of quickly, but just kind of want to make people aware of what's out there. I hope you guys have a good rest of your day, and hopefully I'll be seeing you around.
Awesome. Thank you.
Absolutely.